I'm falling in all the good times. I find myself longing for change, and in the bad times I feel myself. I'm off the deep end, watch as I dive in. I'll never meet the ground, crash through the surface where they can't hurt us. We're far from the shallow now.
All right, happy Thursday. Welcome back to Morning Coffee with Rick Alexander. Sometimes I do these shows off tweets that I fire off, and I think that this is going to be one of those. So I made a tweet the other day that said, if you're unsure of what you want in life, then you just need to start. You'll learn more by engaging with the world than by thinking about it any day of the week. Businesses, projects, relationships, they all require your effort and not your speculation. So I want to talk about this a little bit, and I want to break it down because there are multiple ways for people to learn in this world. But at the end of the day, like, the world is going to be changed by your example, and you will only set an example by taking action on the things that you want to do. Now, I hate saying taking action because I think in the personal development space, it's said so often, and I do believe it's a cliche because it's actually true. I think what a lot of these entrepreneurs and stuff found out is that tons of people are content to listen to podcasts, listen to audiobooks, read other books, take online courses, and you get in this, not paralysis by analysis, but you get in this sort of point in your life where you are always thinking but never actually acting. And all of the information in the world is not going to get you anywhere if you don't figure out how to manifest and take what are your thoughts and put them into reality. And that just takes practice. Whether it's a business, whether it's athletics, whether it's coaching, all of these things, they take time because nothing happens in the world how you actually think it's going to happen, right? And so what you'll find is you'll have a great idea for something, but as you start taking action on that thing, maybe the market thinks differently, the world thinks differently, maybe people don't get it like you thought they would, and then you have decisions to make and you have pivots to make. Now, I will say this, my default setting is to take action. So if I have an idea, I think about it for no more than probably a week before I start actually looking into, okay, well, how am I going to do this? What is this going to take of me? And then through that process, I realize either this is something I want to take on or something I don't want to take on. The reality is, though, I only get there by taking action on that thing. So whatever it is that you want to do, and I know that you have a thing, everybody does, there's a voice in the back of your head that says man, I think I could do this, or one day I'd want to do this. Just take action on that thing and understand that if it fails, it's okay. You're just figuring it out. You'll learn better. And every time you do it, you're going to get better at implementing. And implementing is what it comes down to. Because in today's technologically driven world, we're in the age of information. You can figure out how to do anything. You want to start a business? Google it. You want to start a new hobby? Google it. Find out where. Find a coach. Hire them. Figure it out. And honestly, even if you don't pay for information, it's so open source. There's blogs and essays and articles. Now, some of those are worth what you pay for them, but the fact remains that there's a way from a technical standpoint to do just about anything that you'd want to do. But what we have in 2019 is an application issue. We don't know how to apply the things because we're consuming information so much. So one of the things that one of my first business coaches had me do was stop podcasting or stop listening to podcasts, stop reading everything all together until I actually implemented something. And now I try to go into books and even podcasts if they actually resonate with me. And then I say how can I implement this thing? And that's why I'm always asking you questions. And I sort of put out these things you could use as journaling prompts. You got to start taking action, and then you got to use the information that you're gaining. Otherwise, it's all for naught. And I think millions of people are in this area where you're constantly listening and you're constantly consuming, but you're never actually acting. And because you're never actually acting, you're never making progress toward what you want. And by that, I mean you're not learning how to actually do this thing in the world. And again, How you do something in the world is much different than how you think about something. So don't let your best life pass you by while you are literally sitting there in thought. Now, this isn't a reason for you to just like send it no matter what, but it is a reason for you to take a couple of steps and just think about your approach and understand that where you're actually going to learn is when you start doing the thing. You know, when I joined the military, you go through boot camp, and then went through selection, and then you go through like a technical school that teaches you how to do the job. Now when you get out of that school, you have more information about the job in your head than somebody that's been doing it for 10 years because it's all fresh and you've been tested on it constantly for 6 months. But then when you get to a team, what you realize is you actually don't know shit about doing the job until you do a deployment. And the reason is because all of the information in the world just does not help you if you don't have the application piece down. And what you find is some of that information is garbage, right? Like if you think about a lot of the how-to business steps, like I read through a lot of these articles when I was thinking about doing this show, and I realized like, nah, that's garbage. You don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. And the only reason I know that is because I've started like 5 businesses so far. And so it's just so important for you to get this application thing down and just get that muscle memory of implementing your ideas so that you know if they're worthy or not. Because the arena is where you test out your ideas. They're not tested out in your head. Everybody feels like, oh, I've got an idea for a business. And the unfortunate truth is everybody everywhere has a million good ideas. The only thing that separates the people that get success in this life are the people that take action on those ideas and learn how to implement them. A really terrible idea that's executed well is going to beat a great idea that's executed poorly any day of the week. And so for that reason, I'm kind of always leaning toward action. Now, again, like admittedly, it's not great on the ego when you always take action because sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes you come out of the gates too hard. Sometimes you miss product market fit and the timing's not there. A lot of things can happen, but at the end of the day, what you're learning is intensely valuable. You know, you would learn more about starting a business by starting a business than you ever would by getting an MBA. And that's why people that start businesses hire people with an MBA to work within their business, because their expertise isn't in that area. And the last thing I want to say about this, because I think it ties in nicely, is the idea of ready. We always want to be ready for something, and sometimes we wait until we are ready. Like I've literally heard people say like, oh, I'm not going to start CrossFit till I get in shape. And it's like, it's an illusion. There is no idea of ready, just like there is no end point in life. You just start and you just figure it out, and that's how this works. And to think that you could be ready is almost an insult to the greatness of what you are taking on, right? So like you'll never be ready for kids because it's such a life-changing, love-expanding like thing that's so innate to the human condition and so big, like you are literally creating life. How could you actually be ready for that? And that's why people say, well, you'll never actually be ready, you just do it. And that's how all of life is, especially if what you want to do is great. You have to take on that thing knowing that you don't have the ability to be ready for it, but the way that you become ready is through implementation, through trial and error, and through figuring out what actually works for you. So my question for you is, what great idea do you have that you've been sitting on that you need to take action on? The world needs that good idea. And I would say, honestly, it's kind of selfish if you don't implement it. Because how many people could you help by implementing that thing? I had this idea for a show for a very long time. If I would have just sat on it forever, there's a lot of people that would have probably missed certain lessons in their life. And I don't know how many I actually affect, like on a very cellular, real level. But even if it's one, it was enough for me to get that idea out of my head and into the airwaves. And so I hope that you can find the courage to begin implementing. And don't be so worried about failure. Don't be so worried about what it looks like. Just figure out how to implement. Love you guys. I'll talk to you tomorrow on Morning Coffee.